Chapter 3 of Martha by the Day. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Martha by the Day by Julie M. Lippmann. Chapter 3. For days Claire lay in a state of drowsy quiet. She hardly recognized the fact of her changed condition, that she was being cared for, ministered to, looked after. She had brief waking moments when she seemed to be aware that Martha was bringing in her breakfast, or sitting beside her while she ate her dinner, but the intervening spaces when Ma or Cora served were dim, indistinct adumbrations of no more substantial quality than the vagrant dreams that ranged mistily across her relaxed brain. The thin walls of the cheaply built flat did not protect her from the noise of the children's prattling tongues and boisterous laughter, but the walls of her consciousness closed her about as in a muffled security, and she slept on and on until the exhausted body was reinforced, the overtaxed nerves infused with new strength. Then, one evening, when the room in which she lay was dusky with twilight shadows, she realized that she was awake, that she was alive. She had gradually groped her way through the dim stretches lying between the region of visions and that of the actual, but the step into a full sense of reality was abrupt. She heard the sound of children's voices in the next room. So clear they were she could distinguish every syllable. "Say now, listen, Mother, what do you do when you go out working every day?" It was Cora speaking. "I work." "Pooh! You know what I mean. What kind of work do you do?" For a moment there was no answer. Then Claire recognized Martha's voice, with what was undeniably a chuckle tucked away in its mellow depths, where no mere literal child would be apt to discern it. "Stenography and typewriting." "Are you a stenographer and typewriter, Mother? Honest?" "Well, you can take it from me, if I was it at all, I'd be it honest. What makes you think there's any doubt of my being one? Don't I have the appearance of a high-toned young lady stenographer and typewriter?" A pause in which Martha's substantial steps were to be heard busily passing to and fro as she went about her work. Her mother's reply evidently did not carry conviction to Cora's questioning mind, for a second later she was up and at it afresh. "Say now, listen, Mother, if you do stenography and typewriting, what makes your apron so wet and dirty nights when you come home?" "Don't you suppose I clean my machine before I leave? What kind of typewriter do you think I am, to leave my machine dirty when a good scrub down with a pail of hot water and a stiff brush and sapolio would put it in fine shape for the next morning?" "Mother, say, now listen, I don't believe that's the way they clean typewriters. Miss Simmons, she's the principal secretary to our school, and she sits in the office. She cleans her machine with oil and a fine little brush like you clean your teeth with." "What you been doing in the principal's office, miss, I should like to know? Been sent up to her for bad behaviour, or not knowing your lessons? Speak up now, quick." "My teacher, she sends me on errands, and I got a credit card last week. And say, Mother, I don't believe you're a young lady stenographer and typewriter. You're just trying to fool me." "Well, Miss Smarty, supposing I am, so long's I don't succeed, you've no kick coming." "Say, now listen, Mother." "Hush, you'll wake the pretty lady. Besides, too many questions before dinner is apt to spoil the appetite, to say nothing of the temper. Turn to and lend a hand with them potatoes. Smash 'em good first, and then beat 'em with a fork till they're light and creamy, and you won't have so much gimp left for snooping into things that don't concern you." "Say, now, listen, Mother." "Well?" "Say, Mother, something awful funny happened to me last night." "Are you telling what it was?" "Something woke me up in the middle of the night, and I got out of bed, and the clock struck 4, and then I knew it was morning, and I heard a noise, and I thought it was robbers, and I went to the door, and it was open, and I went out into the hall, and—" "Well?" "And there was you, Mother, on the stairs, kneeling." "Guess you had a dream, didn't you?" "No, I didn't." "What had I been kneeling on the stairs for at 4 o'clock in the morning, I should like to know?" It looked like you was brushing 'em down." "Me brushing down Snyder's stairs! Well, what do you think of that?" Her tone of amazement at the mere possibility struck Cora, and there was a pause, broken at length by Martha in a preternaturally solemn voice. "I s'pose you never tumbled to it I might be praying?" Cora's eyes grew wide. "Praying?" she repeated in an awed whisper. "But, mother, what did you want to go out in the hall for to pray on the stairs at 4 o'clock in the morning?" "Praying is a godly act, wheresomedever and whensomedever you do it." "But, mother, I don't believe you were praying. I heard the knocking on your whisk-broom. You was brushing down the stairs." "Well, what if I was? Cleanliness is next to godliness, ain't it? Praying and cleaning, it amounts to the same thing in the end. It's just a question of what you clean, outside you or in." "But say now, listen, mother, you never cleaned down Mr. Snyder's stairs before, and you've been making shirt-wasters for Mrs. Snyder after you get home at nights. I saw her with one of 'em on." "Cora, do you know what happened to a little girl oncet who asked too many questions?" "No." "Well, I won't tell you now. It might spoil your appetite for dinner, but you can take it from me the end she met with would surprise you." Shortly after, Claire's door quietly opened, and Cora, with a lighted taper in her hand, tiptoed cautiously in, like a young torch-bearing avant-courière, behind whom Mrs. Slosson, laden with a wonderful tray, advanced processionally. "Light the chandelier, and then turn it low," Martha whispered, "and then you yourself light out, so's the pretty lady can eat in comfort." The pretty lady, sitting up among her pillows, awake and alert, almost brought disaster upon the taper and the tray by exclaiming brightly, "Good evening! I'm wide awake for good. You needn't tiptoe or hush any more. Oh, I feel like new, all rested and well and ready again, and I owe it every bit to you. You've been so good to me." It was hard on Cora to have to obey her mother's injunction to clear out just when the pretty lady was beginning to demonstrate her right to the title, but Martha's word in her little household was not to be disputed with impunity, and Cora slipped away reluctantly, carrying with her a dazzling vision of soft dark hair, starry blue-grey eyes, wonderful changing expressions, and in and over all a smile that was like a key to unlock hearts. "My, but it's good to see you so," said Mrs. Slosson heartily. "I was glad to give you sleep, for goodness knows you needed it, but if you'd a kept it up a day or so longer I'd a called in a doctor, sure, just as a kind of natural precaution 'gainst you settling down to a permanent sleeping beauty, for you can take it from me I haven't the business address of any beast here in New York City could be counted on to do the prince turn when needed. There's a plenty of beasts, worse luck, but they're on the job for fair. No magic, lightning change about them. They stay beasts straight through the performance." Claire laughed. "But as it happened, I didn't need a prince, did I? I didn't need a prince or anyone else, for I had a good fairy godmother who, oh, Mrs. Slosson, I can't." "You don't have to. And I'm not Mrs. Slosson to you, I'm just Martha, for I feel like you was my own young lady, and if you call me Mrs. Slosson I won't feel so. And here, now if you can clear up this tray so clean it'll seem silly to wash the dishes." For a moment there was silence in the little room while Claire tried to compose herself and Martha pretended to be busy with the tray. Then Claire said, "I'll be very glad to call you Martha if you'll let me, and there's something I'd like to say right off, because I've been lying here quite a while thinking about it, and it's very important indeed. It's about my future, and you'll excuse me interrupting, but before you really get your steam up, let me have a word on my own account, and then if you want to, you can fire away, the gun's your own. What I mean is, I don't believe in lying awake thinking about the future, when a body can put in good licks asleep, resting from the past. It's against my principles. I'm by the day. I work by the day, and I live by the day. I reasoned it out so fashion. The past is over and done with, whatever it may be, and you can't change it for all you can do, so what's the use? You can bet on one thing, sure. Whatever ain't dead waste in your past is somehow going to get dished up to you in your present or your future. You ain't going to get rid of it till you've worked it into your system for health, as our dear old friend Lydia Pinkham says. As to the future's like a flea. When you can put your finger on the future, it's time enough to think what you'll do with it. Folks' futures be all right if they just pin down a little tighter today and make that square up the best they can with what they ought to do. Now, as to your future, there's nothing to fret about for a minute in it. Just now you're here, safe and sound, and here you're going to stay till you're well and strong and fed up and the chill of Mrs. Daggett is out of your body and soul. You can take it from me, that woman is worse than any line storm I ever struck for dampen down purposes and freeze out and general cussedness. Your business today now is to get well and strong. Then the future'll take care of itself. But meanwhile, Claire persisted, I am living on you, eating food for which I haven't the money to pay, having loving care for which I couldn't pay if I had all the money in the world. I guess I know how you settled my account with Mrs. Daggett. You gave her money you'd been saving for the rent, and now you are working, slaving overtime at 4 o'clock mornings, sweeping down the stairs, and late nights making shirt-waists for Mrs. Snyder to help supply what's lacking. Just you wait till I see that Cora, observed Mrs. Slosson irrelevantly. That's the time her past will have slopped over on her present, so she can't tell which is which. Just you wait till I see that Cora. No, please, Martha, dear, it wasn't Cora. She's not to blame. I'd have known sooner or later, anyway. I always reason things out for myself. Please promise not to scold Cora. Scold Cora? Not on your life, my dear. I won't scold Cora. I'm old-fashioned in my ways with children. I don't believe in scolding. It spoils their tempers. But a good licking once in a while helps 'em to remember, besides being good for the circulation. Claire was ready to cry. It's all my fault, she lamented. I was clumsy. I was tactless. And now Cora will be punished for it. And I make nothing but trouble for you all. There. For mercy's sake, don't take on like that. I promise I'll let Cora go free if you'll sit back and eat your dinner in peace. So now, that's better. What I was going to say, Martha dear, is I'm quite well and strong now, and I want to set about immediately looking for something to do. I ought to be able to support myself, you know, for I'm able-bodied and not so stupid but that I managed to graduate from college. Once, 2 summers ago, I tutored. I taught a young girl who was studying to take the Wellesley entrance exams, and I coached her so well she went through without a condition, and she wasn't very quick either. I wonder if I couldn't teach. Sure you could. If I could get a position to teach in some school or some family, I could maybe live here with you, rent this room unless you have some other use for it. Lord, no. I call it the boarder's room because this flat is really too rich for my blood. But you see, I don't want the children brought up in a bad neighbourhood with low companions. Well, Sammy argued the rent was too high, till I told him we'd let a room and make it up that way. But what with this and what with that, we ain't had any boarders, except now and then some friends of himself out of a job, or one of the girls living out in the houses where I work, getting bounced suddent and in want of a bed, and none of 'em ever paid us a cent or was asked for it. Well, if I could get a position as teacher or governess, I'd soon be able to pay back what you've laid out for me, and more besides. And in the houses where you work, are there any children who need a governess, and young girls who need a tutor? That's what I wanted to ask you, Martha. Mrs. Slosson deliberated in silence for a moment. There's the Livingstons, she mused. But they ain't any children, only a childish brother-in-law. He's not quite all there, as you might say. It'd be no use trying to learn him nothing, seeing he's so odd, 70 odd, and his habits like to be fixed. Then There's the Farrans, but the girls goes to Miss Spenny's school, and the sons at Columbia might upset their plans if I was to suggest their giving up where they're at and having you. Then there's the Greys and the Granvilles and the Thorns. Adding 'em all together for children, they'd come to about half a child a pair. Talk about your race suicide. They say they can't afford to have children. You can take it from me as the poor people are rich nowadays. We can afford to have children all right, all right. Then there's Mrs. Sherman. She's got one boy, but he, Radcliffe Sherman, well, he's a limb, a regular young villain. You couldn't manage him. Only Lord Ronald can manage Radcliffe Sherman, and he—" "Lord Ronald?" questioned Claire, when Mrs. Slauson's meditation threatened to become static. "Why, he's Mrs. Sherman's brother, Mr. Frank Ronald, and no real lord could be handsomer looking or grander behaving or richer than him. Mrs. Sherman is a widder or a divorcee or something stylish like that. Anyhow, I worked for her this 8 years and more, almost ever since Radcliffe was born, and I ain't seen hide nor hair o' any Mr. Sherman yet, and they never speak of him, so I guess he was either too good or too bad to mention. Mr. Frank and his mother lives with Mrs. Sherman, and what Mr. Frank says goes. His word is law. She thinks the world of him, and well she may, for he's a thoroughbred. The way he treats me, for instance, you think I was the grandest lady in the land. He never sees me but it's 'How do you do, Martha?' or 'How's the children and Mr. Slauson these days?' He certainly has got grand ways with him, Mr. Frank has, and yet he's never free. You wouldn't dare make bold with him. His eyes has a sort of keep off the grass look, generally, but when he smiles down at you friendly like, why, you wouldn't call the Queen your cousin. Radcliffe knows he can't monkey with his Uncle Frank, and when he's by, butter wouldn't melt in that youngin's mouth. But other times, my, you see, Mrs. Sherman is dead easy. She told me once that children ought to be brought up scientifically. Lord, she said they ought to be let express their souls, whatever she means by that. I told her I thought it was safer not to trust too much to the children's souls, but to help along some occasional with your own, the sole of your slipper. 'Twas then she said she absolutely forbid anyone to touch Radcliffe. She wanted him guided by love alone. Well, that's what he's been guided with, and you can take it from me love's made a hash of it, as it usually does when it ain't mixed with a little common sense. You'd ought to see that fellow's antics when his mother and Lord Ronald ain't by. He'd raise the hair off'n your head if you hadn't a spear of it there to begin with. He speaks to the help as if they was dirt under his feet, and he'd as lief lie as look at you, and always come up to some new devilment. It'd take your time to think fast enough to keep up with him. But he ain't all bad. I don't believe no child is, not on your life, and my idea is he'd turn out okay if he'd had the right sort of handling. Mr. Frank could do it, but when Lord Ronald is by, Radcliffe is a pet lamb, a little woolly wonder. You ask me why I call Mr. Frank Lord Ronald. I never thought of it till one time when Cora said a piece at a Sunday school entertainment. I can't tell you what the piece was, for, to be perfectly honest, I was too took up at the time, watching Cora's stocking, which was coming down right before the whole church full. It really didn't, but I seen the garter hanging, and I thought it would any minute. I remember it was something about a fellow called Lord Ronald, who was a real thoroughbred, just like Mr. Frank is. I recollect one of the verses went, "Lord Ronald had the lily white doe." To my way of thinking, it's no matter about the colour, white or gold, or just plain green paper money, so long as you've got it. Anyhow, that's what it said in the piece. Lord Ronald had a lily white doe, which he gave to his cousin Lady Clare. Say, wasn't he generous? Gave to his cousin Lady Clare, and good gracious, oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to jolt your tray like that, but I just couldn't help flying up, for I got an idea. True as you live, I got an idea. End of chapter 3, read by Sandra.